I'm giving you a shout out. Hi, Taylor. You're going to hopefully tell me what it sounds like, Taylor, on this. See what it sounds like. Going to hear Ryan and Lee, so you'll really hear them properly now. You should do. So, the podcast. So, let me know what you think. Thank you, Taylor, for jumping in. Taylor's a regular on my live show on the TikTok. So, thank you.
We're
Thank you,
live,
Taylor.
we're live.
How you doing?
We're in. Let's go. Inspiration Nation. Hello. Lee Kemp here for, I would say another week on the podcast, but I've been fairly absent recently. Lee Kemp here returning to the podcast with my very good friends, Ryan Boniface, Jose Noya. How are you doing, guys?
Not too bad, thank you.
Yeah, really good. Thanks. Really appreciate it. Yeah, lovely. Thanks for asking. How are you, Lee?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. We go with our first recording of 2025. This is good. Looking forward to this. Jose is live on TikTok. We're live on YouTube as well. Just put Jose Noya Inspiration Nation into your Google machine. Follow him on those platforms. If you subscribe or whatever the buttons are you press to get notifications, you'll get told when we go live. You can interact with the show. So this week, I mean, I've been on a run of providing a load of great topics. I'm sure it's not my topic this week. I've missed, I think, 4 of the last 6, I would say.
Are you going to take credit for this topic? Just asking.
Of course, this is my topic, and as it's the start of the year, we don't do resolutions, as we know, because you can start goals at any point, but we are going to do our reflections. So how are we feeling our 2024 was, and what are we looking forward to, rather than... Well, we can have resolutions, we can have new things we want to start, but like I said, you don't have to pin them to the year, but what are we looking forward to into the next year? Jose,
love that. I just want to give some...
give some shout outs and then you can give us your 2024 thoughts as well.
Thanks, Taylor, for joining. Thank you, official Fredov, Aya. And I want to give some shout outs to some regulars on the live show for TikTok. There is Frizzle, Taylor's on there right now. Thanks for joining, really appreciate it. We've got Ethan, we've got Michael from Florida, who's a pilot, who joins us a lot. So some really cool people. And also Clark, he said a happy new year. That, you know, Clarky, I think you've jumped in here before. So thank you to all of you for supporting. Really appreciate it. I really appreciate all the support. So let's keep this going.
Florida's quite appears quite a lot on our download locations, you know. So if that is, was it Michael? Did you say? We appreciate you listening very, very much.
Fantastic stuff. Brilliant. Okay. Yes. Carry on. What are you doing, Lee? What's going on here? What are you doing?
I'm looking at you to do your 2024 thoughts. If you'd listen to anything that I say.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Did you ask? I missed that.
Twice.
Wow.
Twice. It doesn't. Look at him. Just this.
Listening skills.
What Jose's going to do for 2025 is not listen to a word Lee says.
Of course I am. Right. Okay. Let me say. So you want to know my thoughts of 2024, as in reflections, as in my
how it went
just
for
generally.
You. Is it better? Are you better now? Are you worse now? Did you achieve what you thought you might achieve? How was it for you?
Well, I think 2024 started a bit slow, I think. But what's really happened, it started a bit slow, and I kept doing the videos, all that sort of stuff, and I've really ramped up, and things have changed in my employment. Now I'm doing leadership. Oh, thank you, Ava. Appreciate who's liking this by live. Oh, it's just is liking this. Thank you so much. So 2024 was a bit slow, started, then it sort of ramped up in the middle, and then right at the end, it's just it's so accelerating because these lovely people on TikTok, I've just started going live on TikTok nearly every day, and all of a sudden, this is nice bit of traction we're getting. So for me, 2024 has been slower growth, but good growth. So thank you everyone on TikTok for following and everything like that. I really appreciate it. I've been doing it in the morning when I go for my morning walk. So if you're asking me how it's gone, it's really promising actually. And TikTok growth is growing, which is always good. And I take these people, take my community on a walk with me. So I always tell them about the podcast, go to there. So, you know, bit of a long thing, but slow and steady growth, I think, is for me. That's what I've got. Is that what you wanted, Lee?
It's good. Well, it's whatever. There is no wrong answer. It's whatever you feel like. And what about personally, outside of the podcast, how has the year been for you?
Oh, tennis, man. That's been great.
Yeah.
Tennis has been awesome. Like, really enjoying that. It's been a good year. You know, family's well, which has been good. You know, that's been a good thing. Personally, I'm just trying to explore certain things. I like different types of, personal development, doing more meditation, doing journaling. just try and enjoy the moment more. I just think as I said, I've said to a lot of people before, is that I don't believe in a New Year's resolution. It should just be like you said earlier, Lee. Like you just
Continuous
don't do it.
growth.
I always say to my, yeah, I say to my lives, that, well, why not just start now? Like I know, but you do get a certain energy at the beginning of the year, but that thing of that's like slow and steady, wins the race. I really love that sort of quote where you just continually just make the tweaks every day. But overall, I'm really happy with this year. And Frizzle's joined. I just want to say hi to Frizzle because Frizzle's an original like Clarky, but Frizzle's been really liking these lives. It's been fantastic. Welcome, Frizzle. Feel free to ask a question because you're on the podcast live right now. So for me, it's family's well, things going in the right direction. I just feel that this year is going to be a very good year, even more. I think we're getting steady growth, and I think for me, it's going to be even more growth for me, just to build on the things and the foundation I've built this year, personally, and all the stuff that I'm doing. Yeah, powerful stuff. I think is coming in 2025. Yeah, I really am excited about it. Actually, I'm quite excited. So thank you all for joining. There you go. Anyway, yeah, that's me.
Love it. That's good.
Anything out there? I don't know if anything come out of that. Does that resonate with you guys? I don't know.
This is personal. This is these have evolved into our own kind of development and growth diaries. So it's really good just to see where you are, where things start. A year, in one ways it goes really quickly, and in other ways it's a long time. Especially if you set yourself goals and you break them down and you move through things. It's amazing how quick they go. I mean, I say at the start of last year we were in the process of wanting to move house. There was a real, would it happen, won't it happen, what will happen with that? So going into the year, that was the goal. We went through that always joyous process of actually moving house, which we are now on the other side of. And I really, beforehand in the prep of getting ready, and then afterwards, I really utilised that, the backlogging thing I always talk about through this, to really, right, what needs doing, let's make a list, let's divide it into sections, let's work through it bit to bit, really trying to not get myself overwhelmed. And, we did the house move, one of the 3 most stressful things you can do in your life. Once we were in, as you guys know, we talked about in various podcasts, I undertook biggest DIY project I've ever done in my life, and built the summer house in the back garden. Loads of other stuff like you get when you move house. So lots of, there's been decorating going on, odd jobs that need doing, all that sort of stuff. And rather than, trying to get overwhelmed, because actually both those things, the home move, the big bit of project in the garden, seem like they were ages ago to me now. And I think it's because they weren't as stressful as they could have been, and they weren't as stressful because I'm really, pushing myself on this backlog listing, get everything written down mentality. So I really strongly want to keep that going into next year with what I'm doing. But actually, there's one bit. So I feel like work at the moment is in a really good place, and it's going really strong and is good, and I'm really fulfilled with what I'm doing, which is a big tick. Family life is all really good. I've got, we talked years ago now, Jose, way before we even started the podcast, and I didn't have a right balance on stuff. So there's a lot of making sure not just family and friends, time at home, keeping in touch with family, having regular relationship with friends and stuff. I feel like there's a good balance on that. As we know, I love a bit of AI, hobby stuff like that. I do a bit of gaming, stuff for me and making sure it's there. The missing ingredient for me right now is exercise or health. So I'm determined, and I say this to everyone at regular intervals whenever it's appropriate, I'm determined that I'm going to live to 120. So I'm a third of the way there right now, or just over a third of the way there right now. Absolutely adamant about this, but it's not going to happen if I don't look after my heart. That's the bit I want to make sure. I can get out of breath very quickly now because I don't do enough exercise. So the thing, and again, not as a resolution, it's just it's just something we talked about November, December. December's crazy. There was no point starting something, but I'm going to buy something to use and do at home and have as regular, and there wasn't the time to get it in and build it and everything because there's enough building with presents and everything else over Christmas. So some point during January, February, I'm going to introduce that, and what I want is by the time we talk about this next year, that isn't, it's not like, I need to work on that. It's got to the point where that's just a regular part of my routine I do. There's just something else I've kind of folded into my life and just happens because it happens. But I think that's having built up layers of things and worked with to get the most from my time. That's the bit that's missing now that I really need to slot into place, and I feel really determined and motivated to do that in the way with. And as you've taught me with this, really, I'm going to start doing it. I'm going to set myself a daily goals. I'm going to follow them to the point that it becomes habit, so I'm not even thinking about it. Because this is the thing I've done with backlog, because I've added in something and it becomes routine, and then I've that itch to add something else in new because I would like to be something trying new. So I'm going to try that same approach with this until it just as much as making the bed in the morning like we both do or anything else. That's just part of my routine. So that's where I'm looking for 2025. Podcast wise, by the way, just before we move on to Ryan over there, this year 36 countries we've been listening to in. We've put up over 1,000 minutes of content. We've had 1,700 plus downloads going on. It's been a really, really good year, I think, in terms of the podcast. I've been pleased with that. Pleased for me. Great, I say, a lot done during the year. And yeah, folding in that exercise is the thing I want to say is just part of my routine next. And to the man with the beard, Ryan Boniface, how has your year gone for you and your beard in 2024?
You know what? You two have come on and had loads of good ideas and goals for next year or this year, whatever way you look at it. I'm not sure I've done anything.
But that's not true.
No, okay, maybe I'm being a little bit dramatic, but I'm not sure I've done anything that is profound enough for me to be super, super proud of. There hasn't been like a crowning moment of the last year. Work's been okay. I feel like that's been pretty, what's the word? Pretty steady. Been pretty where I wanted it to be. I started a whole new project at the start of last year. But that settled down and got to its own routine and rhythm quite quickly. Otherwise, I feel like I've just kind of gotten on with the year. The end of 2023 was a bit rough. I had a death in the family that was a bit tough and things like that. And so maybe I could be a bit nicer to myself and say that in the start of 2024, I overcame some personal hurdles and things like that.
And you did.
Yeah.
That all happened. That's
stuff,
important.
yeah.
You get things that for whatever reason set you back, including like emotionally like that, and you have to work through those things. So you did it. You also, I'm going to give you a prompt because you're not kind enough to yourself. We've been, and without going into the details, we've been having a lot of conversations and doing a bit of mentoring and coaching stuff professionally. And I think over the back end of this year, there's some areas there that we talked through where I think you've kind of pushed and challenged yourself and grown significantly, if I can say the word, because of that want to push and challenge yourself. And it doesn't necessarily materialise in, I had this really specific goal and I've done this thing and I can show you. But it's sort of like I was saying for bits on mine, and I only say that because I know you had to jump up quickly. It's all loads of this stuff is building blocks and building blocks and building blocks, and eventually all materialise together. There's a great Ted Lasso conversation I want to do on that one day with where they do that. But I think you've been doing some really good building block stuff with yourself this year.
Okay. Some of these things.
Oh look, I made a little smile on his face. I like that.
some of these things, and people that listen will understand this as well. People see change in you before you see it in you.
Oh yeah, very true.
Because you said you that isn't the first time you've said that to me in the last few weeks, and it's obviously really nice to hear. But I hadn't seen it. Like the things that we were talking about that you're saying that I've tried to look at and work on. I didn't think I'd done anything conscious to do so. But apparently it's whatever it is that I'm thinking about or trying to do has started to lay the foundations of stuff that may begin to work and fill the gaps that I needed to fill and things like that. Yeah. Maybe I've not been as nice to myself there as maybe I could have been.
You have trouble with this, I think. Acknowledge that's something.
But I think those small. You're muted, by the way.
Oh, for God's sake.
Those small successes kind of build up, don't they? They snowball and marginal gains and things like that. All stuff that we've spoken about, and they're all buzzwords that we use in this podcast loads, but they do all add up to stuff. You know, it does compound and um, it does build up to the place to a successful place as long as you work at it and do the right things, I guess. For 2025, um, what do I want to what do I want to do this year? Um, I mean, outside of the big ticket things like move out or um, you know, life stuff, I think I think for me it would be things like being kinder to myself. Maybe probably a good example to use based on the conversation that we're currently having.
That's what I was referencing to you when I was on mute just now,
Oh,
which was
okay.
doing a favour for our good friend Jose there. But
Um,
yeah, it's you. I think that's a mental block in your head about being tough with yourself or challenging yourself. And I don't think you are
we,
kind enough to yourself.
we've spoken a lot about well, not spoken a lot, but I've spoken previously on the podcast about how I play a bit of pool and a bit of snooker here and there. I've always been pretty handy at pool and things like that. I've been um, semi-successful, if you like. I suppose not that that's the worst word I could ever use because that isn't ever true, but better than the average person you'd see in a pub type scenario. But the thing that always let me down was the mindset that I'd put myself in. I'd lose games or matches or whatever well before that they were formally lost, and I don't know, and I never knew, and I probably still don't know how to at this point to overturn that and change that mindset. So maybe that's something that I could look at this year, something that I could be better about. I I got the feedback the other week, and this is similarly touches on to what Lee was talking about, things that I've worked on. But I got feedback the other week that I'm maybe a little bit too self-righteous, not self-righteous, but righteous. If I think 2 plus 2 equals 4, I will die on the hill telling you that it's 2 plus 2 equals 4, even if
Mm.
you gave me some mathematical proof that 2 plus 2 equals 5. It doesn't. We know that, but you know what I mean. I would still sit and die on the hill that I'm right,
Mm.
and I've got a bit better with it, especially being in a relationship. Before I had a girlfriend, I was horrendous, but without leading the usual lines that people lead about relationships, you have to learn to lick your own wounds and cut losses here and there sometimes, don't you? And I think I've got a bit better at that um, this year, or recently, and I think I could just be better around my own uh, PMA, maybe my own positive mental attitude. I could be a bit better with. I don't think professionally it's that bad, but I think it's things that I'm passionate about. I'm really, really passionate about. Like I'll end up shouting, not shouting at you, but like getting really, really built up about how passionate I am about something that you'll be like, oh, bloody hell, stand back a bit. I think I can just be a bit better with that kind of mental attitude stuff.
Some good stuff to think on, and we'll see as we do this stuff. Once you put it out there, you start to constantly check into a check-in as the year goes. I'm going to have to, I'm afraid, wrap us up very, very quickly, which is my own fault for terrible timekeeping. Guys, I massively appreciate your reflections. As we do with this is, oh no,